o'clock, so we can get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the host of Sisters on Fire IRL series, and as you see, our special guest tonight is right here, Heather Schultz, Professor Heather Schultz. How are you, love?
I'm doing very well. Thanks, Natasha, for having me on the Sisters on Fire IRL series.
Yeah.
Really happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited for you to share your story. So first question out of the gate, why don't you explain a little bit about your background, being a former journalist, getting into education. How did you become the woman you are today?
Sure. So I didn't even think I would be in higher education right now. So I went to Baruch College, majored in journalism. I was a copy editor and staff writer on our school newspaper, which is the Ticker. So shout out to all the Ticker peeps. And I was also editor-in-chief my senior year at Baruch of our Dollars and Cents magazine. And it's no longer a print publication. Everything is strictly digital right now. The last print publication for Dollars and Cents, sadly, was 2009. So I graduated Baruch with my bachelor's in journalism in 2008. And at that time, that was at the height of the Great Recession. So it was a difficult time to find a full-time job. So what did I do? I've always been scrappy and resourceful. So I pieced together jobs. I worked part-time in the Office of Communications and Marketing at Baruch. And I also freelanced for the New York Daily News. So I wrote wedding columns. I joke around that I know enough about weddings to become a wedding planner, but that is not my path. And I also wrote articles about interior design and real estate. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I got my first full-time journalism job in 2010 at a trade publication dealing with legal technology. And I know, Natasha, you are a lawyer, so that is definitely your area. So I had to not only learn about the law industry and litigation, but I had to learn about all these technical tools that help lawyers litigate. So there was a steep learning curve. And I was there for about almost a year. And then I got a better opportunity. I'm all about following the money. You have to follow that money. And I had another better opportunity, more money at another trade publication called, so the company is Haymarket Media. And the trade publication dealt with direct marketing. And that was Direct Marketing News. And I was there for almost a year, and I was laid off at the end of 2011. And then at that time, I joined the Asian American Journal Association, and where I learned about networking, and I really honed my craft of networking because of AAJ. So shout out to all of my AAJ family members and mentors. Thank you very much. And since I knew I wanted to write when I was in high school, I always told myself, I'm going to write for the New York Times. And I put that intention out into the universe. And in January 2012, I got my first byline in the wedding section of the New York Times. I wrote about innovative save the date announcements. And I found that the trend was at that time, couples were straying from the traditional postcard mailer and coming up with fun save the date announcements like a music video or scratch off and really making it their own.
Interesting.
And then in 2012, I was really trying to get back into journalism. I had some leads and things didn't work out the way that I wanted. And I always knew that I wanted to go back to school and get my master's. I even thought about law school at one time, Natasha. And I realized quickly after speaking with some family and friends that that's not where my passion lied. So I went to Baruch, back to my alma mater, and I got my Master of Public Administration. I was always interested in the government sector and public policy and that world. And what I loved about that program was it afforded me the opportunity to spend my last semester in Washington, D.C. And what better place to learn about policy than our nation's capital? So my last semester, that was spring 2014, I was an intern for the Women's Health and Rights Program. So I did a lot of work around economic security for women, domestic violence awareness, reproductive health. And I came back to New York, May 2014, was looking at opportunities in New York and DC, Did not end up
Mhm.
working in the government or the nonprofit. I just kind of fell into
Yeah.
technology, and I was a consultant. It was just a 3-month position for this program called New York City Generation Tech by the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. So what
Mhm.
that program entails is they had a whole bunch of students, high school students from all different areas. And these are students who are interested in learning how to code.
Yeah.
And so they paired the students with mentors from various companies like Warby Parker, like AppNexus.
Yeah.
And so it was my responsibility to handle the logistics of that program and make sure that all the mentoring sessions were running smoothly. And the top 3 teams got to participate in a demo. And these students
Yeah.
were responsible for creating their own business plans and a demo for their apps.
Wow.
It was pretty
Very
amazing.
cool.
And because of that 3-month position, that and because of my networking skills, that landed me in a content marketing specialist role for a tech company called LivePerson. And
Mhm.
I was there for 6 months, and unfortunately they had to do some restructuring to the marketing department. And
Mhm.
then I found myself in a position where I was laid off again. And it's just important. I want everyone to know, who is taking the time to tune into this live stream interview, that it's okay if you're laid off. Like, just get back up on the horse again. And
Yep.
life is not what we may think it's going to be, and you just have to roll with the punches and not let that discourage you, and just keep plowing ahead and keep your eyes on the prize. And so
Yes.
in 2015, I just was freelancing, just putting together a whole bunch of part-time gigs. And then, because I was pretty involved with the adoptee community in New York
Yeah.
City, after going to Korea for the first time in October 2014, and then getting involved with adoptee groups, that led to the creation of a position as communications and development manager at the Donaldson Adoption Institute.
Gotcha. So that is quite a long journey, and I appreciate that, sister to sister, because as you know, right, there's I can't even count how many titles come after my name, right? And I people are like, wow, that's so crazy, you do so much. But I think that if you look at any of the most remarkable people in this world, their name and what follows after their name is not like one word, like author, poet, actor. It's all like a million and things that they do, right? Like, look at Maya Angelou. She's someone who I regret that I never got to meet her in person before she left us, right? And she did how many different roles? I mean, I think 12 to different titles describe her. And so, I think it's a blessing to be able to wear different hats. I think it's a blessing to be in different industries and learn, because it all molds together. It makes you holistically a stronger, more dynamic, more educated, more insightful person. So I love it. So I guess out of all of your experiences, being a journalist, being in education, being a writer, being a public speaker, being an advocate, because you didn't even go into all the Korean, adoptee advocacy work that you're a part of as well. What would you say is, like, I guess, your favorite thing that you do or you've had experience with?
Okay, just to continue, and I just wanted to explain how I get into teaching. So I was at
Yeah.
that position for a year and a half, and it lasted for about a year and a half. And unfortunately, due to insufficient funding, the nonprofit closed.
Gotcha.
So, and then
Yep.
towards the end of my time there, I started adjuncting at Baruch, and then I started adjuncting at Fordham, and then things just started leading in the direction of higher education for me. So, but
Gotcha.
just going back to, it's a different time now, and yes, people wearing multiple hats, and people do need to get creative and think outside the box in terms of their job. Jobs are not 9 to 5 right now, and that's the beauty of the
Yeah.
digital age that we live in. A lot of the
Yep.
positions are remote. So, for instance, when I was working at the tech company, a lot of the employees worked remotely from all over the world.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And just to answer, so what would you say is your most, is it teaching? Is it being an advocate? What being a journalist? What has been, I guess, something that you've loved the most so far in your career?
So with my career trajectory, even though I'm no longer in journalism, because I had the journalism background and I can write, I can edit, I can research, and I have those impeccable storytelling skills that enable me to transition to the world of content marketing and nonprofit communications. So even, I just don't want people to get so caught up in a box. So let's say you go to school for a certain degree, that doesn't mean you need to stay in that field. So
Absolutely.
with
Absolutely.
journalism, so you can really go into any industry, and every industry needs good writers. And I can't tell you how many people can't even string together an email.
It's true. Writing is definitely, I mean, I think that the instruction, I mean, I don't want to blame teachers in education because as you know, who you've had as a professor, Professor McNair, right? The one of the founding playwrights of Sisters on Fire, which brings us here tonight, as well as she being the executive director and founder of Long Island Girl Talk. You know, writing is important, but I think it's something that people struggle with, even myself included. Like growing up, writing was not, English was not, definitely not my favorite language. It's something that I've had to work at, and I constantly work at it. And because also, you know, there's something about just writing a sentence, and then there's like copywriting, right? Like really making sure that the copy of it and what the essence of what you're saying is what you wanted to say, and it's clever and it's catchy. Writing is a lot. It's a lot. A lot goes into it, right? So it's not something that's easy. I think you know, I'd probably prefer to do a math calculation sometimes. But okay, so what would you say is your most meaningful lesson that you've learned in your career?
My most meaningful lesson would have to be to believe in yourself, and just to be resilient, and just moving forward, and don't let anyone dictate your path. Only you know what's best for you.
Yes. Absolutely. I completely agree. And for all of you tuning in, Doug Wynn writes, Heather, keep doing what you've been doing. You've come a long way. God bless. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful comment. Everyone tuning in, thank you for continuing to tune in. Please share your questions and comments, because this is your opportunity to speak with the one and only Heather Schultz. So, you know, make sure you type those in, and, you know, bring friends along to join in this conversation. So, okay, I agree with you. I would say my biggest lesson so far that I've learned in my career as professor, lawyer, recruiter, you know, social media influencer, entrepreneur, poet, advocate. I would say you have to look at your career as a journey instead of an outcome, right? And I think that if you think about the journey and start to think about what are the things you want to learn in your journey, it will change the types of jobs that you apply for, is one lesson I would say I've learned so far. And then probably the other one is, don't be afraid to say no. A lot of times when you're looking for employment, as you know, right? You know, I too have been let go, right? And I personally feel like my life came alive by having that opportunity actually come my way. So there's great, tremendous power that comes from doors closing, because it forces you to open up a window to figure out another house to get into, right? Like it puts some interesting energy in your life that you then have to mold and kind of figure out where you're going with that. But I would say it's okay to say no, right? You shouldn't just be looking for a job. Again, your career is a journey. So, you know, if you think about it like that, what do you want to learn along this journey? What exactly is going to represent who you're going to be in this world? Because we spend more time doing what? Our jobs, and we do even with family and friends. So it matters, right? You shouldn't just take a job for a job. I hate when I hear like young kids just say, I just need a job. No, you don't just need a job. You need to figure out who the hell you are. Right? And your job is a part of that process. It brings out certain things in you. So be mindful about the choices you're making, especially where you work, because it can affect you. If you hate where you work, it's going to change you internally, and you're gonna have to reverse engineer that. It's crazy. So so there's that. I guess for next question, I would say is, what are, as a woman and as a person of color, how has your journey been affected with those two identifiers?
Sure. So it was really when I joined the Asian American Journalists Association in the fall of 2011 that I really learned about the lack of diversity in the newsrooms. And it really wasn't until AAJ that I really thought about my role as an Asian American professional and as a woman. And I do believe that it's important in any industry across the board that there's diversity, because the population is just not white and black. It's brown, it's red, it's yellow, it's all colors in the rainbow. And where I teach at Baruch, it's one of the most diverse colleges in the United States. And I believe that's my alma mater. I went there for undergrad and grad school, and that really added to everything that I experienced there, because I met students from literally all around the world. So it's important that the faculty reflects the diversity of these students.
So how has your journey been affected, being a woman, being a person of color, like good and bad? What were things that you felt helped? What were things that you felt you didn't really like and you felt you can attribute it to those identifiers?
I think with Asians, sometimes people view Asians, it's a stereotype that we're submissive. And I really learned specifically in certain positions that I really needed to just count on myself. And yes, I had allies in the office, and I bonded with my fellow coworkers, and I work very well independently, but I also like adding to the team, and I do have a collaborative working style as well. But when there were some issues that arose, I realized that I needed to embrace my personal power, and I needed to have those difficult conversations with other colleagues and even with my boss. And I really gained confidence in my professional journey, and I'm not afraid. I used to think the worst and be in fear. Oh, if I open my mouth, XYZ, I'm going to be fired. And it's actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's all about having an open and clear dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And so you felt like you felt like in your career you had to battle that stereotype of, like, you know, you're not quiet, you're not submissive, that you felt challenged to have to like speak up louder.
Definitely. I never really, I was lucky in the sense that I never experienced any direct racism in any of workplaces, but maybe it was there, but it wasn't blatant.
Okay.
So I don't know if anyone had that stereotype that I was submissive and I could easily be bossed around. But I just know that is one of the common misconceptions that some people have of Asians, and it's the whole model minority myth.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'd love for you also to share a little bit about your adoption story, if you don't mind, just because I think it's very powerful. And I've had Miss Professor Heather Schultz on a show that you may or may not know, guys, Our Voices on 90.3 WHPC. She's come by twice. She's like a radio rock star, this one. And you can go to dressingroom8, the number 8.com, to listen to her interviews. But, you know, I think, you know, I'd love for you to share a little bit about, you know, your adoption story, the advocacy work that you do with that, and bringing awareness to kind of what's happening with Korean adopted children.
Sure. So I always knew I was different. I grew up in Farmingdale, a predominantly white neighborhood in Long Island, and back before social media in the digital age, I remember flipping through photo albums, and I was always the darkest shade, and that did bother me. And I always identified with Asian characters on TV and in books. So for instance, I loved the Power Rangers growing up. born in
Yeah.
84. So 80s, 90s
Yes.
child right here. And I love the yellow Power Ranger. I had an American doll that I customized to look like me. I didn't want any of
Ooh.
because the other American dolls, Samantha, they didn't,
Yeah.
Felicity, they didn't really look like me. So, and I was so proud that I was able to personalize one that looks like Heather.
That's
And
awesome.
there weren't really any Koreans growing up. There was one ESL
Mm.
student who was 2 years older than me, and she found me one time in the cafeteria, and we became fast friends, and she introduced me to some Korean staples like kimbap, and she tried to teach me basic Korean phrases, and that was pretty much just like learning like basic Korean culture through her. And then it wasn't until right before, right after I turned 30, at that time I had my Master of Public Administration, and I told myself I need to make this trip to visit Korea. And I went to Korea. I was there for 3 weeks, the best 3 weeks of my life. And before I went to Korea, I did some research and I contacted my adoption agency, set up a meeting with a social worker. So I planned that all in advance. And I didn't have any expectations about finding my birth family. I just was so happy just to go back to the motherland of Seoul where I was born. And unfortunately, when I had the visit with the social worker at my adoption agency, she said there was very limited information on my birth family. So I was very discouraged with that for a little bit, but I did get to meet the doctor, the OBGYN who delivered me, and I was able to spend some time in the clinic where I was born. So my story goes, I was born in a clinic, and I was there for a week, and my birth mother spent some time with me, and they kept me there for a week because they were hoping that my birth mother was going to come back for me, and she didn't. And then they brought me to the orphanage, Eastern Social Welfare Society. I was there for about a month, and then I was with the foster mother for a couple months, and then I was brought to New York. And so adoptees, sometimes we celebrate our arrival dates, and my arrival date was November 10th, 1984. And so when I came back to New York, I was very discouraged with the limited information in my file. And what I did was I knew other adoptees who were doing DNA kit services like 23andMe.
Okay.
And so what I did was I signed up for that. I bought the kit. I spit into a tube, and within 1 to 2 months, they had my results. And I'm a mixture of Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, and broadly East Asian, which was interesting. I thought, hey, I just would be 100% Korean, but it was interesting to see that I'm a mix of all that. And with 23andMe, if you make your profile public, you can become connected with other biological relatives.
Interesting.
Yes, and I actually found my second cousin, Korean American, grew up with a Korean family, not an adoptee, and he grew up in the Texas area, and right now he's in the Los Angeles area. So his father is my first cousin because he's my second cousin. So I believe that my birth father is somewhere in his family.
Oh, wow. Okay. But he doesn't have a recollection of knowing her, though, right?
Knowing him, no. So my birth father could possibly be his father's one of the sons of his father's brother.
Okay. And did you guys connect online and stuff, or you haven't spoken to him?
So I spoke with him via text a couple months ago, and we in touch, and
That's cool.
23andMe is great because you're able to send messages and we've been in touch for a couple of years now, and he's super supportive of my desire to want to see where I came from. And it's a human right for all adoptees to know where they came from.
Absolutely.
Not that I need to find my birth family to complete me. I'm whole without that.
Yeah.
But I just want to see where I want to see how far I can go. And I've always been a researcher and an investigator, and we'll see what happens. And I have some Korean adoptee friends who have reunited with their birth families.
Wow.
I have some adoptee friends who are not ready to start that search, and everyone is in a different position, and that's okay. I had to be in a very healthy space to go back to Korea 4 years ago, and I really work on myself and my inner child issues and struggling with abandonment. That narrative has run across my entire life, especially in connections with people.
Okay. And you speak about your adoption journey, right, in a special way, right? You do share a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So as a writer, writing is very healing, but adding another layer to that, reciting is also healing. So there is a spoken word group that I'm part of called the Inspired Word New York City. So shout out to Mike Geffner, who founded that community. And it's just not for writers, it's for musicians, comedians, dancers, rappers. Wow. It's a great community, and it's not competitive, and it's a nurturing environment. It really is a family. And so over the years, I performed pieces about identity issues and adoption and being a domestic violence survivor. And I'm really thankful that an outlet like the Inspired Word exists for me to do that.
Absolutely. Okay. And with that, everyone tuning in and watching this on the replay can clearly see, Heather Schultz is a very accomplished young woman. So I can't even imagine 20 years from now as we speak, everything that you'll do on top of all the stuff you've already done. But, and that's what brings you here tonight as a sister on fire in real life, IRL, right? So for you, how would you define the term sister on fire?
So Sister on Fire is a strong woman who is unstoppable and fierce and doesn't care what anyone thinks of her.
Badass.
Yes, badass.
That is all you in a box.
And it's important, like, there are always going to be haters, and some people are not going to support your journey, and that's okay. You keep doing what you need to do. And I do believe in positive affirmations. So I start my day with a meditation. I write up positive affirmations. I recite them and do some deep breathing. And I teach public speaking at Baruch College. So before any of my students do speeches, I do have them do some deep breathing exercises and positive affirmations. I have them stand up in the Superman pose, and I call them to recite positive affirmation.
Okay. Just since you're speaking to that, and hello, Khalil. Yes, he calls you a sister. What would be, I guess, like a go-to affirmation that you would share either with yourself or with your class?
So a couple, I am beautiful, special, and lovable, just the way I am right now. I am the master of my day. My voice matters. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes, queen, you better work it.
Speaking, it's one of the top fears that people, not just kids and students, adults have. And so the first day of my class, I would ask my students, I would pass the index card, and I would ask my students to write a fear that they have about public speaking. And Baruch, there are a lot of international students, so some of them were concerned about their accent, and some of them thought oh, what if I freeze? And I told them to take that
Yeah.
index card, rip up that negative thought and remove it from their mind and
Yes.
reprogram their mind with a positive one. It's
Yes.
so important how we think and feel about
Mm.
ourselves.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the other thing is, and she actually, Heather, again, so modest. She's done work with Long Island Girl Talk for everyone tuning in, and she did that exercise of having our girls in the program. Essentially, we teach young girls how to create their own television show. So we've had Heather as a workshop leader and speaker come, and I loved when you made the girls do that, rip up their fears, because yeah, we've got to get past our fears, because our life is what? It's an extension of how we feel on the inside. So when we're riddled with fear and doubt and negative self-talk, all of that just gets played out in our life, and it creates a harder life. Like, it's literally more difficult to live. So you've got to get rid of it. And also, what I find as a coach and as a person who creates content around the subject, it's okay to fail, right? It's okay to get up in front of a bunch of people and forget what you're going to say, because the more that you do that and you see the outcome of, like, what happened, did the world stop? Did you just combust? Like, no, it's not going to, right? You're going to figure it out. And embracing those moments of quote unquote failure or mistakes, you realize, you know what, it's not a big deal, right? So if it's not a big deal, why am I making it bigger than it really is? And guess what? Everyone messes up. You think anyone has you teach public speaking. Have you given a perfect speech ever in your life?
No.
Exactly.
And the perfect, and I remember one of my first bosses early in my career, she told me, the perfect is the enemy of the good. There's no such thing as perfection. And I shared that nugget of wisdom with my students.
Exactly. The standard of perfection is what's killing us, myself included. I grew up in a very intolerant household where, success was an unachievable thing, right? I would get a 98, and I should have been Asian, really, because in my heart's desire, I'm right there with you, soul.
Reverse, we're reverse.
Reverse, yes, because growing up, you would have thought I had a militant Chinese family that was raising me, because it was never enough. Get a 98. Oh, do you have 100? Get 100. Do you have 102? It was never enough, right? And so I always grew up trying to, like, chase this big nickel in the sky. And even to this day, I have to affirm the success and victories that I have in my life, because I definitely had a mindset of, like, it's never enough. Like, I could make $1 million. Okay, you don't have 10 million bucks. I could, have this. It's not this, so, like, constantly, to feel satisfied with yourself, you have to affirm what you have. So yeah, I mean, we all have hangups, but yeah, someone who does a lot of public speaking, it's fun. The more you do it and the more that you, like, enjoy the process of it, it's a lot more fun. And you just try to have a conversation. You let go of the, oh, did I say and did I say or? Like, you just talk, right? Share your truth and have at it. Like, because the thing that people always forget is, no one knows what you're about to say. Only you do, right? So you can't put this expectation on the audience of, well, are they going to like it? Do they know that I missed? No one knows. No one knows what you're going to say. So whatever you end up saying is whatever was meant to be said. And if it's great, thumbs up. And if it wasn't, work at it and keep it moving. But you can't, get so caught up. Public speaking is super important. I love taking that class actually at Penn State. I got an A+ in it. And I worked hard, though. Listen, I had to get real Asian. My Asian in me had to get real deep, because I was like, listen, you're not going to catch me. I'm about to do this. And I practiced my speeches, and I had my index cards, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. God damn it. But I had a good time, but we digress. So in your life, who were women that were sisters on fire for you, whether it's personal or women you look into media or, life? Who are women that fit that definition for you?
For definitely my grandma.
That's sweet.
My grandma's my rock and my best friend and a mother figure. And and anytime, like, I'm a worrier, so anytime I would worry, she would she'll give me some tough love. She's like worrying. She's like that doesn't solve anything.
Smart woman, that woman. Yes, yes, yes. Hi, Nana.
And she's the one who told me about Baruch, and
Oh, wow.
and I truly believe that when I went to Baruch, that was where my life completely shifted. And
Beautiful.
and
I
also
love it.
and also my mother, she is a true sister on fire, Julia Schultz. So she had MS when she adopted me in November 1984, and she wanted me so bad that she borrowed her cousin's cast to pretend she just broke her leg because she didn't want the adoption agency to know that she had multiple sclerosis, because if they knew that, then she probably wouldn't have been able to adopt me.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And when I got back from Korea, my father gave me a journal that she wrote to me that she intended for me to see when I got older, from 1984 to 1987, about my temper tantrums when I was younger, about my first birthday, about how I helped her get through hard times with MS. And in the first couple entries, her handwriting, my mother, she had impeccable script, and and she never filled all the pages of that journal. It was only from 84 to 87. It wasn't every day, but towards the end, the last couple of entries, the script wasn't as neat. And it was interesting because to this day, I got that journal from my dad 4 years ago, and I still haven't read every entry because I feel if I do, then I've lost part of my mother, and that's some fear that I have that I need to work on. That's irrational, but it's still there. And there were many entries that my mother apologized to me, that she said she kept apologizing that she was slacking off, and sometimes she wasn't as consistent writing the diary entries as she wanted to be. It was just so beautiful, and I do recommend that for any mother. And when I'm ready to become a mother, I want to do the same. That is such a beautiful gift for your child when he or she grows up.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't know if it's a bad fear, like what you're saying about reading, like not necessarily going through all of the journal. Maybe that's just like how you hold on to your mom in your life, right? I think at the end of the day, sometimes we can be hard on ourselves, and you know, your mom is always going to be with you, right, for the rest of your life, right? But you know, maybe reading it in a way that works best for you is that's how you keep her in your life. So I think that, that's that. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to read a journal. And it sounds like it would also be very emotionally taxing, right? To open that up and to read, right, her last words. But that is quite incredible that you still have that her, you still can read and hear like about her nuggets. And hopefully she, sends you a message from your shout out to mama. I know it's hard. It's hard. Okay. Well, I know you're a busy lady, so I appreciate your time. So just last minute questions, I guess, would be, what advice do you have for women who are maybe struggling with, we can do the public speaking in the sense of like trying to have a voice, right? Because you've had your voice public and you teach people how to have a voice. So what are some nuggets that you can share on that? As a domestic violence survivor, what are some tips that you can have for people struggling out of difficult situations like that? And then last piece of advice I'd want to know is if you could go back at one point in your life and give yourself advice, what would you say to yourself? And you've answered, you heard that question before, but we'll do it for Sisters on Fire.
Okay, great. So public speaking advice. So public speaking is all about having confidence and liking who you are. And I remember one of my students, she it was the first week, and she came up to me and she just was in tears because she thought she was going to fail the class, also a perfectionist like us. And she thought she was going to fail because she gets so nervous with public speaking, and I was really calming her nerves. And with being in education, with being a professor, you're also a therapist as well. You really have to
don't say that out loud. She's not practicing therapy in the classroom.
No, I'm not practicing therapy, but I'm just saying that you have to be compassionate.
Yeah, yes, I like that phrasing. Yes.
It's not therapy, but you just have to, you're just showing compassion and empathy, and just being a very good listener, and understanding that each student is different and has different needs, and that's okay. And there's no standard. It's not a cookie cutter or in a formula. So it really goes to liking who you are. And that's why I work with my students on how do you start your day? Because if you start your day in resistance and you keep snoozing and you don't want to wake up, and you're just a grouch, that pretty much sets the tone for the entire day. So you really need to step it up. Public speaking, you're not going to be a good public speaker if you don't like yourself. So whatever issues that you need to work on, the inner demons that you're struggling with, you need to do that. So whether that's getting yourself a therapist, whether that's going to church, whether that's running, going in the gym, finding a hobby, do it.
Because she said, get your life, y'all. You better get it. That's
I
awesome.
found that my most professional, like the biggest strides I experienced professionally did not happen until I took care of Heather internally. And the personal blends into the professional.
Yes.
They're not separate things, and people think they're separate. No.
Same old, True. I love it. So before you go on, just so everyone's clear, Heather said, get your life. And she said, if you don't get your life, you can't be a good public speaker. So get your life. And with that, no, we're not done. But that's amazing advice. She said, you better like yourself. You better check yourself. Bravo.
Beginning, it is. You have to. I remember how awkward it was for me when my spiritual teachers told me to start writing positive things about myself, and I could not even name any because I didn't like myself. And then so I started writing them, and then I recited them in front of the mirror, and then they started singing, and then I realized, hey, I'm not that bad after all.
Oh, she's so cute. I love you. Yes. And she was really yummy when she was little. If you ever show a picture on your Facebook, she was very yummy. So I know why your mom was like, oh my God, I have to have her. Oh, yeah, she's so yummy. So, okay, before you go on, why do you like yourself for today? Before you go into other advice, I want to hear what makes you badass today.
Being on Sisters on Fire.
Hey!
Yes. And I do believe, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, Natasha. Am I the first Asian woman on Sisters on Fire?
Ding, ding, ding. You know, y'all know when you're like, wait a minute, am I the first? Ah! I knew you were going to catch that. You were like, ah! Oh, do I get a special crown?
Yes. What's my tiara, Natasha?
Yes, madam, you are the first Asian. So you are badass on multiple levels. So get your life, guys, like Heather got her life here. I love it. Okay, so next advice would be for domestic violence, right? You don't have to necessarily go through the whole of your journey, but what would you have wanted to have heard to either prevent that from happening or wanting to have heard it to help you through that process?
I don't think that I would have been able to change what happened. The change comes from within, but what did help me was the support of my family, my friends. And it was very difficult for them to see me going through this, and they just could not understand, but they were very supportive, and I have the most amazing family and friends, and forever grateful to them. And it was because of my cousin who recommended me to go to her therapist that I realized that, hey, this is not right, and I need to correct this behavior. This is not me.
Interesting. So you would say that the turning point then in that part of your journey was getting professional help and seeing from another perspective what was going on. Okay, that's great advice. I love that. Okay. And then the last piece of it would be the, being that you said your narrative so long growing up was a lot of loneliness, a lot of feeling not a part of things, feeling different. What would you have said to yourself as a child that you feel like could have made the difference that you didn't hear? I stumped her. She's like, what?
I spent a lot of time by myself, a lot of time writing, listening to music. I was a hip hop head in high school, and big Lauryn Hill fan. I'm actually singing Lauryn Hill with my boyfriend.
Yes, that's awesome. Shout out to Lauryn Hill. Yeah, she's awesome. Amazing.
And I guess I would tell myself that I'm not alone. That's what I found in the community of adoptees, that all our stories are very different, and there are common overlaps. But what that community showed me was that I'm not alone.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, similar to you. I should have been. I had just asked my dad if he felt like I was an alien, because I spent a lot of time alone. Now, listen, the verdict's still out. I'm still waiting. He's like, go away. But I spent a lot of time alone as a child. A lot of time, struggling with self-love, self-worthiness as well. And I think if I could have gone back and spoke to Tasha, I definitely would have said, get your life, for sure. But secondly, I would have said, it's okay to be alone. I think sometimes in our society, we stigmatize alone, like being alone or being different. When you realize those people are unicorns later on in their life, like these people, the most remarkable people are people who were nerds, people who were totally mocked, people who were told, you're trash, you're not going to do anything, so it's usually these like loners or these different people that grow up and are literally unicorns. So I would have told young Tasha that it's okay that people don't get you. It's okay that you have a high moral compass. It's okay that you love to be a nerd, because, these people around you don't understand you, and it's not for them. It's your life, your journey. As long as you're good with you, you've got to embrace that. So I think that instead of fighting this notion of oh my God, I'm not like anyone else. Okay, you're badass, you better snap to it. Right? And just and laugh about it, really, and read a goddamn self-help book and move on with yourself, instead of feeling bad. You can't feel bad about who you are. Who you are is a blessing. There's only one of you in this world. So that means that we are all unicorns. But, the earlier on that you can embrace that, it's so interesting when you see a confident kid and a not confident kid, because that confident kid, it's like the world is their oyster, right? Because they're fearless and they know they're badass and they're gonna go and do it. And the kids struggling, it's just this is self-inflicted, boom boom. You've got to break free of this, so that's what I would say. But for everyone tuning in, for everyone who watches this on the replay, if they want to get in touch with you, Heather, if they want to work with you, if they want to learn more from you, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Sure. So they can reach me via email. My Gmail is heather.j.schultz. That's schultz@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Heather J. Schultz. So happy to connect and continue the conversation. And Natasha, I just want to add one thing. So
Yeah.
another thing, I would tell myself that I don't need to seek validation from the outside or anybody. The only validation that I need is from Heather. I don't need to answer to anybody else, only myself.
Yes.
I only know what's best for me. So
I love
go
it.
focus on yourself, because I only know what's best for me.
You heard that? She said, get your life again. She said, you think I care what you think? Okay. Get your life. Listen, Tamar Braxton is someone I need to meet because her phrases catch me. I don't know if you've ever watched some of her programming, but she says the wildest things. And get your life is like, I can't with her. But it's so true though. It's get your life.
It's true. Don't focus on my life. Focus on your life.
Stay in your lane, guys. Absolutely. Yeah. You know how many adults I try to tell this to? Yeah, they can't. It's like they're so worried. Like, what are you doing? Well, what are you doing? You know, it's focus. Yeah, because you know what? They don't understand that time is the most valuable asset we have in this life, right? It's the one thing you can never get back. You can spend 5 minutes talking, those 5 minutes are gone. You'll never get them back. You can always make more money. You can always make more friends. You can even bring people into your family and get more family members, but you can never get more time. And the fact that people waste time by focusing on other people waste time by judging and hating and being visceral with other people. They don't understand the purpose of life, because we literally are here for a minute. So you don't have enough time to be messing around that way. But yes, I'm glad that you told people to get their life again. That's amazing. And with that, do you have any announcements or things that are coming up for you that you'd like to share with everyone tuning in?
One other tip, and then I'll talk about announcement. And also, it's important who you surround yourself with. So yes. Negativity, remove any negativity. Family, friends, remove it. Don't let others bring you down.
Yes, I'm a strong advocate of that. I cut somebody like, woo, hot bacon, goodbye. And ain't nobody got time. Bye, Felicia, bye. Like, nobody has time for this. Absolutely. Alrighty. You told them their business. What announcements do you have?
So the announcement, I have a piece that I wrote for a blog called Walking in Other People's Shoes. And the founder of that blog is my good friend, Ellie Winham. And that's going to go live on July 17th. So
woohoo! I love it. And what's the URL address?
It's I believe it's walkinginotherpeopleshoes.com. So people can connect with me on social media and I can post the exact link. But it was really that exercise. So it was all about, I had to talk about how I discovered my voice. And I never thought about that before, Natasha. And that exercise, it took me a good couple hours to write that piece, but it was extremely cathartic for me. And it really helped me put things into perspective.
I love it. I love a writing sample. I as the lifestyle editor for Plus Model Magazine, one of my articles I wrote talking about my experience of losing my job, it was really, it was very cathartic to think about the fact that at first, that experience when you're, told you have to leave is difficult, but how all the things that I learned and all the beautiful things that happen from that. But I love writing that makes you sit and think about your life and reflect more, because a lot of times it's very easy to be caught up in living your life, but you also have to pause and reflect. I'm an advocate of daily reflections, weekly reflections, monthly reflections, because if you don't, then you're not learning, right, from some of these experiences we're having, and you have to constantly live and then learn and adjust and, keep going. And you can't do the learning piece as much if you don't sit and just be with yourself and just what was this? Okay, universe. Right? You gotta, okay. So you gotta think about it. And not only bad stuff, good stuff. You're that was a delicious ice cream cone. That's amazing. But then also, oh, wow, this was a cool opportunity. Oh, that was an interesting networking thing. Oh, no, I'm not talking to that chick. And, you know, like, all of it, all of the good and the bad and everything in between. But I don't want to make you go hoarse from laughing. But thank you so much for being the first Asian.
I'm like a sister on fire.
Yes, exactly. And you are technically the first Sister on Fire IRL live stream. So there's a couple of firsts that are happening tonight.
So, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Natasha.
Absolutely.
And thanks
yes.
everybody for tuning into the live stream.
Yes, thank you for everyone who tuned in. And please watch this on the replay. Please share this with your friends and family. This was a hilarious conversation, as it always is. This is my girl, guys. This Heather, she stayed catching me laughing. So this is just generally how we communicate. So if you're just looking for a good time, let us know. We'll do this again. We'll be like, Heather, you didn't talk about this. Let's do this again. Let's act like the first time didn't even happen. Let's just do it again.
Natasha, we need a talk show, like seriously, co-host.
Oh, listen, Black, Asian, yes, baby. You know the world's not ready. Are you ready, guys? Are you ready for this?
The world is ready. The world is here. It's now.
Listen, well, yeah, I mean, some people might have proposed it, but I think some people will be like, yeah, these two, we got to do this again. So for all you TV producers, Netflix, how you doing? Hulu, how you doing? Holler at your girl, Natasha, at dressingroom8.com. Heather, say your email.
Heather.j.schultz, that's SCHULTZ @gmail.com. So holler at us both.
Yes, deuces. It's been real, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.